Welcome to Evolution. My name is Andre Lawrence and this is my channel about electric cars from a different perspective. As I mentioned in my last video, the unboxing of the Viofo T130 3-channel dashcam, I said I'd show you how to install it. Well, this is that video if you want to see how much patience is required. It's a lot. And oh my god, that was a mistake. Stick around, I'll show you in 10 seconds. Before we get started, I wanted to make it perfectly clear that this video is for entertainment purposes and I cannot be held responsible for anything that you do to your car following the instructions that are in this video. This is in no way an official Viofo installation video or instructions or anything of that sort. So myself, Andre Lawrence, and my YouTube channel, Evolution, cannot be held responsible for anything you attempt to do based on what you see in this video. So with that out of the way, let's get started. So what do you need to actually do the installation or complete the installation of a dual dashcam kit? Well, in the case of the T130 from Viofo with the hardwire kit, you're going to need as follows. You're going to need a soldering iron, and that's if you opt to solder the hardwire kit to the fuse taps that are here instead of using the crimps, and that's what I do. I prefer to have a permanent connection. That way I know that it's not going to come apart. And you're going to need some heat shrink tube. If you're going to do the soldering of the wires properly, you might as well do heat shrink. A little micro jet little mini blowtorch basically to heat up the heat shrink. You're going to need some wire strippers as well as a little socket wrench so that you can undo a bolt for the ground of the hardwire kit. And you're going to need a set of long nose pliers to be able to pull the little micro fuses out of the fuse box. And that is essentially it, other than a ton of patience. Now what I've done is I've also included some glass cleaner here that I'm going to use before I stick the cameras to the windshield and rear window, because I want to make sure I have proper adhesion. I'm going to install the rear camera first for this installation because it's the hardest part. Sticking the camera on the rear window is easy. Getting the wire from the back to the front and making it look like it was installed at the factory, not so easy. Now when I installed this camera, the first thing I wanted to look at was the direction of the power connector. Now the USB cable is on the right or left side depending on where you put it. What I don't know is how that affects the actual video. Is it going to be upside down, or does it detect which direction it's in and actually make the video not upside down? I have no idea. So I need to get the wire to the rubber grommet on the right side of the car when I'm facing it, to my left. So I'm going to point the power cable to that side. Now the camera is offset to the left because of this pad, so I will be lining up this bolt here, which is dead center, with the position of the lens and put it not on the defroster line. That's very important. You don't want to put this on the defroster line. You want to put it above or below, because if you peel this off and you rip the defroster line, it's kind of crap. So let's install this now. I'll start by peeling the 3M protective plastic. Now, like I said, I'm going to line the lens up with the bolt that's dead center, and I'm going to go between the first and second lines of the defroster. And then I rotate the camera back to about where I think it'll need to be, and I'll peel off the protective sticker. So now that I've got the location of the camera, I need to get the wire from here into here, down to there, into here, and all the way to the front. So peeling that off was actually quite easy. One of the tools I forgot to mention is this little plastic pry tool that comes with the Viofo camera. Quite handy. Now the USB wire has two ends. One is a 90-degree and the other is a straight end. You want to put the straight end on this because the 90-degree will point into the window and not fit. So let's start with that. Now what I want to do is I want to run this wire into the rubber grommet that's on the right side here. Now in order to do that, I'm going to need to tape this wire at two positions. Somebody used some black tape, electrical tape, which I forgot to mention earlier, and make sure that I put some around the wire so it doesn't get chafed by the plastic as I roll over bumps. And I'm also going to protect the wire from the metal edge that's here, so I'm going to be wrapping a good portion of this. Now that I've taped the wire at 2 strategic locations, I need to get it to this rubber grommet, so I'm going to peel this rubber grommet out so that I can get the wire into it. And I'll peel it at both ends because that's how it's going to get into the car and look factory. Getting it into there is the easy part. Running it through and then into the car, not as easy. Once the wire is in from the bottom, getting the head to poke through the little opening is the hard part. And there we go. Once I've got enough wire run through, I now need to get it from this opening here out to here. And then push the rubber grommet for the trunk back into place. So now that I've got it in the bottom of this rubber grommet and out into the trunk, the wire has the tape at the appropriate spot where it rubs against the metal. And I can actually tape it to the trunk lid here if I wanted to give it an extra level of security, which is something I think I'm actually going to do now. Now that I've got it installed in this location, I've got an edge of plastic here that touches the wire, so I think I'm going to wrap that as well. And now that that's done, I can reinstall this panel on the trunk lid. Starting with the top, making sure that the wire isn't being pulled on and that the tape is at the right location. Then the pins just have to line up with their holes. Now the nice thing with this installation done this way is that the camera is exactly where it needs to be. The wire is hidden in the trunk lid itself, comes out through factory grommet locations, protecting the wire, being watertight, and will get into the car safely. Now the hard part is getting from here to the front of the car. I can easily get it into here, but I need to remove all of this trim as well as part of the headliner to actually get it to go towards the front at the door frame and head forward. So let's do that now. So there are pins here, but this has a clip that goes into this one, so I can't pull on that. Uh-oh. That didn't sound right. And you want to make sure you're very gentle when you pull on these things, because you don't want to break any of those plastic clips, because that's no fun. I did that in my e-niro and I had to take the entire trunk apart to replace the clip. This does not want to come off. Why? These are supposed to be push clips. The headliner is really rigid and you don't want to pull hard on that and break it. Okay, let's get the wire in the car. Wow, that's a tight fit. Holy cow. And once it's in, then you can put the rubber grommet back into its factory location, make sure that it's completely sealed and that the wire isn't snagging on the metal, which it isn't. Excellent. Okay, that was the easy part. Now I need to get this to the front. I just did a quick verification for the length of this wire because in the Niro, when I ran it at the bottom and I got to the front of the car with the length of the vehicle, the wire wasn't long enough. I didn't want to have to run it behind the airbags because that was a huge pain in the rear to do in the Niro. So as you can see, right here is where I'm going to be running it. The problem is going to be getting it from here to down there. Now, since I'm unable to get this trim piece off any further than it is right now, I'm able to get the wire up into here and tucked underneath the roof liner. All right, theoretically, I've got it far enough where I can take this rubber and put it back over the piece of trim so I can clip it back into place. Yeah, okay. Okay, now I'm at the port window and the headliner is super tight against that. It's just ridiculous. So I need to pop this trim down again a little bit. Holy shite. I just need another millimeter. Why won't it go? Oh, I think I got it. Really have to tug on that headliner, it's scary. Using the little pry tool, give myself a little bit of leverage with the headliner, and I'm able to squeeze the wire in. Wow, that's a tight fit. I'll use my cell phone and show you what I mean. This is no fun. The issue is that's where I started, right here, from there, and then I came around in the headliner here, so I run the wire into this headliner here, up to the front, but this is so tight against the window, the wire is really, really, really tight in there. I don't know if you can see that, but man, that's no fun. Now the big problem is getting it from there to here, because if I can do that, I can run the wire down into this rubber all the way to the floor, and that makes the job way easier. So what I've done is I've pulled on this like that, and I was able to squeeze the wire in here all the way around, and now I'm over here. The problem is I need to go downwards, and I'm not thrilled about the way that wire folds backwards, so I'm gonna see if I can tuck it right up into there. I hope you can see this on the cell phone. It's super hard to show, but I'm gonna try and tuck it into the headliner and get it to turn downwards because this is bad. So let me mess with this and see what I can do. this thing is well built compared to the Niro. The Niro had tons of gap. There was plenty of room to wiggle the wire around, but here, headliner is so tight against the frickin'... Okay, I got around, and now, hopefully, the wire goes far back enough that I can camouflage it in there. Okay, looks like the wire squeezes behind the plastic quite easily. And I can run it all the way down. Okay. Let me get the cameras over there and show you what I'm doing there. Whew, it's hot. It's like, must be 85 degrees and I'm wearing jeans in my car with no air conditioning on. Whew. Now that I've got the wire run from the top here, properly hidden behind the rubber and kind of pushed behind the plastic trim that's here, I've got it about halfway down, and I'm going to show you how I pushed it in and got it behind. Now, as you pull this rubber, the wire gets pushed to the joint part, and if you push down on it, it gets tucked in behind the plastic trim. And it doesn't even show. Now, once I get the wire to this middle part, that's actually a separate part that can come off. This is where I'm going to run the wire forward so that I can bring it along the front edge all the way to the front. I'm undecided. If I run it from here, it doesn't go under the plastic. If I run it here, is it going to get pinched by the plastic? Wow, that is a giant piece of clip. Oh, that's being held in a way that is not going to come off. So my leg has been blocking that the whole time. I apologize. Wow, that's a big clip, and I cannot get past it. All right, well, I have a problem, and it's this trim right here at the bottom. Well, I can't get it off. How long this freaking plastic clip? Holy crap! I can't get it around it. Why would they make this piece of plastic so freaking long? And impossible to remove. Okay, well, if you pry it up hard enough and you're not afraid to bend the hell out of it, then it comes off. That was scary. All right, well, this is the problem here. I had to pry it, and because it's really hot, I wasn't afraid of cracking this or breaking any clips. If it was colder outside, I would not do this. But essentially, I lifted this side, and then I just pried the heck out of it. This is caught under the rubber trim, which is really, really difficult to move. So now it's out, and I think you can see it out on that camera. Now I can run this wire down along the edge and over to the front. So I've got it going as low as possible so that the plastic clip that's here doesn't touch the wire, and I've then gone across following the other wire and then pushed it over here. I could run it underneath, but I'm too lazy to do that. And I got it to the front part right here where it's hiding underneath this. Now it's just a matter of figuring out how to get this back in without breaking it and getting the rubber trim under this. And then taking this wire and scooting it under the plastic. I'm gonna have the same problem with the front one of these, so yay. This is so much fun. Okay, so let's put this back, see if I break it. That's a lot of clips. One in the front, two back here. These little things are the guides, and this is for the rubber. Super difficult to remove, and I have no idea how I'm going to put this back on. Oh my goodness, this is not going to be fun. And then this thing is to hold it rigid. There's like a giant hole here. There's a high voltage wire down there. Just peel this all the way up. It's really rigid. All right, if you peel this up, then it's easy. Does it go back on? Oh. Okay. I'm gonna save you a lot of trouble. I just figured it out. If you pry this rubber up completely, it releases the plastic. There's little hooks that come up underneath this rubber. It's really rigid. There's like a metal ridge in there, I think. And that allows you to pull this up completely and really easily. So, yay, the front one should be easier. Now I need to run this wire down along behind the seat belt up into the plastic trim that's over here. I'm not blocking that? All right, perfect. So, let's do that and then get to the front door. I'm at the front of the car because from the back portion to the front portion, all I did was tuck the wire right up under the plastic trim at the carpet all along the edge. Fairly straightforward. A little difficult at this part here because it's rectangular and it's hard to pull up, but it just tucks right in after that. Now that I'm here, I thought I was going to have to pull this up, but it seems like I can run it all along the edge like I had done on the rest of the plastic trim, just pushing it under. So that's what I'm going to try now. I will pull it up a little bit. If I can unclip it, there we go. If I can unclip that a little bit. Oh yeah, that's perfect. So now I can just throw it underneath. And the wire has play all the way to back there. Perfect. Now theoretically, this is long enough to run up along the A-pillar, through the headliner, and down. And if it isn't, I'm gonna freak out. Now, in order to do that, I need to get it behind this kick plate, which I'm just gonna pull off completely to make my life easy. Uh-oh, son of a bugger. Okay, so I'll remove the rubber like I did. Can you see that here? Yeah, okay, so I'm pulling up the rubber because a little plastic clip is falling out. That's this here, and that's because there's a little hole somewhere on this plastic. Ah, there it is. I'm gonna take that plastic trim piece completely off so you can see what happened. This is not gonna be easy because it's stuck. It's got a plastic clip right there that I cannot remove, and it's just a press clip, but if I had a screwdriver, I could probably push that little thing in. Okay, well, this little edge here, little plastic clip, slides into a slot and a hole in that plastic trim. So I'm just going to do that and hope you understand what I'm talking about, because that clip is preventing me from removing this completely, which is a bit of a pain because I want to get the wire in there. This is not fun and it's not working. Oh, it's a good thing I've got small hands. There we go. Okay, well, hopefully you can see that on that camera. There's a little plastic clip there. It goes into the hole. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this right up completely and run the wire through myself without, not through myself, but through the plastic, because it's just going to be easier. All right, I need to get down there because I'm going to start swearing otherwise. All I need to do is get, I hope you can see that. I need to get this around this little plastic clip so that I can run the wire up into here. All right, let's try that. I think I got it. And that's not coming out. I'm gonna run it up to here and hopefully camouflage it behind this rubber. Now I need to get the clip back into place. Oh, don't get that stuck in there. Okay. Whew. That was some pretty crappy camera work, but I can run up the A-pillar behind the rubber. This is hard and actually requires that little plastic tool that I seem to have misplaced. Here it is. So all you need to do, and that sounds really easy, is run this wire behind the rubber all the way up. So basically, if you pull this out and you run the little plastic thingy into the rubber, the wire kind of just goes behind it. And then you can just push the rubber back into place. And once you get to this part here, it's a little more touchy. You're kind of lifting the rubber completely off of the metal frame. Ah, you bugger. Keeps popping out. There we go. Now, this is getting kind of scary. It's not long enough. The wire is not long enough. If I run this behind the airbags, behind the airbag up here, and then along the roof line, I'm short by 12 inches. Now I'm angry. All right, so I've stripped the wire all the way back to this place from before, which I'll put up here on the screen, where I was supposed to do a 90 downwards, and I'm going straight across. Now, the nice thing that I've figured out since having done this is that I can easily pull these off and have super easy access to the headliner and stay behind the airbag. So I'm gonna run this wire right behind the airbag, which I can feel up in here, so it won't interfere with anything at all. Now, it says not to do this, but the wire is definitely too short to go from the bottom to the top and into the center of the windshield. And even if I was to off-center it, it would be really, really tight. So I take no responsibility for how you run your wire in your car, but I'm going to be doing this behind the airbags, and that's what I'm gonna do. So here we go. Well, this is definitely not easy. I'm gonna lose it. Get behind it and stay there. It's really important to keep the wire up in the ceiling, nowhere near the airbag. And there's a little clip there. Now, once you get to here, you need to pull this plastic trim off. Can you see this? No, you can't. I have to turn the camera. Now that I've gotten to this point, I'm gonna lean this seat forward actually, and then I'm gonna yank on this plastic trim once I pull the rubber down, the rubber seal from the front one as well. All right, I've pulled the rubber from the front as well. I've got it off here. Theoretically, there's a couple clips here. And oh my God, that was a mistake. Yeah, that was not the smart thing to do. There are, oh my God. Getting that back in is gonna be a nightmare. Because the clips, I don't know if you can see it on that camera, the clips go like this, but the bottom is in. I can't put it in like this. I have no idea how I'm gonna put that back. Oh well, we'll figure that out later. Now, I need to get this wire all the way across without touching airbags. And, ooh, I think I found it. Right there. Let me throw this wire into the front. I'll figure that out after, but that is not going to interfere. It is behind the plastic clip and it's tucked right up into the clip. There's no way that's coming down. Okay, I need to do the same thing in the front though. That's pretty cool. All right, now I have a problem. Can I lift this off? How is this held in? Okay, that's something. It's got little clips there. Okay, I fixed it. So you have to rip the whole thing out. So this is becoming no fun, but a learning experience. If you pull the rubber trim completely out, I hope you can see that on this camera, the bottom part of the B-pillar pulls away because it's got a couple little clips. They unclip fairly easily. And then there's two clips at the bottom of the top portion, and they can come out fairly easily as well. That means that I can now get those top clips in, hopefully realign the seatbelt thingamajig, which looks like it's working, and then pop the bottom clips back in. I really hope you can see it on that other camera. That's one. Ooh, did I get that? And that vent is not detached. It's only got 2 pins. There are 2 pins. If I pull this rubber away, theoretically that's done. Then I just put this back. And there was no glue holding that in, it's just a press fit. All right, so I've got the wire in the front. I need to go tuck it in the front there. Well, now that I've got the wire to this point, and it's up into the clips in the pillar so that it's hidden behind the airbags, I now need to tuck it behind the airbag that's here, but there's this handle thingy that's going to make this a little more difficult than in the back. That makes this way tighter. And I also need to pull the trim from the A pillar. That should be easy. In the e-niro, it just popped off pretty easily. And that's it. And I don't really need to pull it any more than that. I just want to get a little bit of room to run the wire behind the airbag completely so that it stays in the roof line and doesn't interfere whatsoever with the airbag system. So let's do that. Yeah, I'm gonna need to run it behind that. Just like I did in the Niro. All right, I run it behind the clip that holds the airbag in, so there's no interference at all. And it stays up in the roof behind everything. Right up there. And into there. And now, at this point, I need to run it behind the airbag so I can get into the headliner to come towards the front of the car. This is really no fun. I said it was a patience job, and that's what it is. I'm not sure how much I can jam in there. Let's find out. Well, there's room here, and it's all way back in the roof, which is convenient because I don't want any rattling. I don't want this wire making any noise while I drive. I need to make sure I have enough when I come around. That's way more than I need. So I want to be out to here. I can hide some of it in here, meaning that I need to pull, this to be about like that. All right, so that's about right, and then I'll jam that in there properly afterwards. Now, maybe. And now see if I can get this all hidden in the roof. It really needs to be up in there. No chance whatsoever of hitting the airbag. So now it's completely up in the ceiling of the car. If I can get it stuck behind this piece of headliner, then I'm good to start bringing it to the front. And I'll show you the little trick that I've got. There we go. To bring it hidden at the front part. I'm tucking it where this mirror is, and I'll save the best for last because there is a little bit of a trick that I did in the Niro, and it makes it so that this wire barely shows. So let me leave that right there for now and finish trying to hide the rest of this, because that's a lot of wire. And I don't want to put it in the B-pillar. I really want to stick it somewhere up in here. Now there should be room in here because there's a lot of empty space back here. Okay, well I can feel some of the mechanism for the sunroof, but it doesn't seem to be... Yeah, no, it's just clips that retain everything. Okay, so I can just tuck this in here and not worry about it interfering with the sunroof or anything. Okay, I now have everything tucked 100% up into the ceiling and away from the airbag. There's no way that's going to interfere. Right up against the sunroof in the back, behind the clip. And into the headliner. Okay, It is a patience game, and it is possible to run the wire into the ceiling completely and avoiding the airbags completely. It is tucked way, way back up there behind the airbag, way up into the ceiling on the metal, and then into the headliner. And behind it here, there's no way it interferes in any way, shape, or form. So theoretically, I can clip this back in, except I want to make sure the wire's not in the way. Nope, it's not. Now I can run this back in. Now that I've got the wire run in the headliner hidden, this wire has to come down to the middle. I'm going to take this wire and do the same trick that I did with the e-niro. There's a little plastic cover here. You should be able to see it on that other camera. And if you pull down on it, it hides a little power connector. People use that for other stuff. But if you tuck the wire into the headliner and then down into this opening and then down under the mirror, it kind of hides the wire for most of the way. And then you just take this plastic and clip it back in. Actually, I have to clip the bottom part first. And now the wire is from here to here, and you can actually tuck it a little bit further in. And that way when the camera's there, all you've got is a teeny bit of wire, and I can even clean this up a little bit more once the camera's installed. So now let me install the front camera so I can show you how you get the wire from from the front of the car down to the fuse box, because that's where the hardwire kit goes. Now, just before I install this in the windscreen, I'm going to clean it with some glass cleaner to make sure I get proper adhesion. Now, I'm kind of a stickler for having this on level, center, and straight, and I've got a ladybug on me, so let's get rid of that. And that means that I want my lens to be most centered, which means that I'm going to offset it slightly to the left, but not too much, because then it's going to look weird. I like things to be centered. So let me peel off this 3M. Actually, let me do a test run. Let me see approximately where that's going to go. Now, the base of this is sticking onto the windshield on a certain angle. It's actually quite steep, something like this. And when I tilt this all the way forward, that's the maximum setting, the camera's still pointing slightly upwards. But what's interesting is you can tilt this down. There are three positions. It kind of clicks in a bottom position. And I think that's how I'm going to be doing it. I don't think I can do anything else. There's no other way to make this angle more. It is all the way. That's going to be interesting to see how that works. Okay, let me take off this protector from the CPL filter and try that again. Looks like how it's going to be. So I'll peel off this protective sticker cover. And because it's hot, it's kind of hard to take off. This is it. This is semi-permanent, so you don't want to screw this up. Sorry if that was out of focus. And then the rear camera connects right there. Now, I got lucky. I didn't think of this 90-degree with this wire here. It just happens to fit just right. Now, theoretically, you could take this cover off and drill a little hole into it, because this is like a vent area, and get this wire in there. But I'm not going to bother doing that. I don't mind having, 6 inches of wire showing, and behind this mirror I cannot see it, so it is what it is. So I've got my hardwire kit that I was sent with the camera from Viofo, and it's got this USB side that connects into the power port of this camera, and the other side is the ground and the 2 power wires. This one is the accessory one that you go into a fuse that basically only turns on when you turn the car on. This one will be for something that's always on. I'm going to look through the fuse box and find something appropriate. And then we just screw this to something that's grounded to metal. So let's get that installed right now and see how that goes. Now when you pull on this to disconnect it, you don't want to pull too hard. It's got some connectors in there and there's the airbag and stuff, so you really just want to tug it so that it comes out of its place so that you can run the wire behind it. Basically, it's a lot easier to take this USB cable and run it up into this tight section. There we go. And even that should be easier by pulling on this. Okay, so now I'm well below the airbag. And now I can start over from here. There we go. And once that's in there, and then it's just clipping that back into place, running it down to about there. Once it's down to the lower section, and it just runs behind the rubber here and into the plastic. Kind of the reverse of what we did before when we ran the wire from the bottom to the top. And it does fit. It's a tight fit, but it does fit. And that's where that little plastic tool comes in. So the nice thing is when you get to here, there's actually a gap in the plastic and you can just pull it through and it essentially disappears and it doesn't get pinched. So that means you can run it up into the dashboard from behind the kick panel, and there you go. So now I've got all of this extra wire that I can zip tie and hide up under the dash, and all that's left is to do a little bit of soldering on these 2 wires, screw this to a place underneath which has a very convenient bolt mounted to the body of the car, and it's metal, bare metal, which is kind of cool. And this will be functional. I've gone ahead and set things up to be able to solder the wire tap to the 2 power leads from the hardwire kit. So I've got these being held on by this little box so that they don't fall off the table. And the first thing I want to do is I want to cut off the little crimp fitting that's on here because I don't use them. So I'm just going to take this here and cut it off with my cutter and get rid of this little boot because I'm going to use heat shrink. And then I'm going to use the wire cutter here to strip the wire back. Now it looks to be a 12, yeah, let's call it a 12. Yeah, it's a 12, so I'm not going to worry about cutting any strands. And while my soldering gun heats up, what I'll do is I'll flux both of these. So I'm going to take the red leads and I'm just going to put them in the flux and in there as well. See if this is warming up or not. Yeah, that's warming up pretty well. Okay. And what I'll do is I will take some solder and I will silver my wire. And I'll do the same thing for this, for the wire tap. That's nice and silvered. You need to take a little stretch of heat shrink and do a little test run. Make sure this is big enough. Nope, take the bigger one. And with this heat shrink tube, I'll be fine to cover both. So I'm just going to cut off a small bit of this, right about there. slide that over the red wire. I'll slide it a little further back because I don't want it to shrink from the heat while I solder these together. Put them together on the iron so that they heat. And then you've got a nice solid bond between the two. Then you take your heat shrink, cover both. So you just take your little blowtorch, and then you get a nice protected soldered joint. So I'm going to do the same thing with the yellow one. And you're done. Just before I install the wire taps in the fuse box and show you what I'm going to choose to power them in both accessory and in battery mode, I'm going to do the 2 tie wraps for the wires that are here so that it looks a little bit more proper when you look at it. Now, since I'm already messing around with the camera, let me stick the 64 gig Viofo micro SD card into it. And that's where the ability to disconnect this thing is interesting, because it makes it easier to access the micro SD. Well, now that that's done, all that's left is the easy part, and that's connecting the fuse taps in the fuse box. Now, you do need to have some extra fuses, and these are the micro fuses, if I'm not mistaken. And I have a couple on hand. I'm just going to go grab those and show you where I'm going to grab power from. Now, the way these fuse taps work is quite simple. I've got some 5 amp fuses. I'm going very conservative with the camera, and if they burn out, I'll just put some 10 amps in. But the way they work is essentially the original fuse that you take out of the fuse box goes closest to the blades that are actually going to go back into the fuse connector itself. The secondary fuse for the camera goes into the one that's furthest away from the blades. So I'm going to start by installing one of the fuses. These are micro 2 for the EV6, and I'm going to install the first one at the back portion, which is for the camera itself. They are a super tight fit, so if you're having a hard time getting them in, just go gently and eventually they'll settle into place. And this front portion is where the original fuse from the fuse box is going to go. So now I'm going to take this second fuse here and do the same thing. I'm going to install it in the furthest one back. A little bit of wiggling and it goes in. Now, when I look at this fuse panel description, I'm going to try and choose something that is secondary and not something that is a primary, like airbags. I want to take it on something that's an accessory for, let's say, the memory seats or something to that effect. Now, I see here a USB charger. It's got a 15 amp on it. Probably going to take the USB charger port for the accessory. In other words, when the car is powered on. And for when the car is in off mode, now the door lock would be a good choice. The door lock shows that it's got a 20 amp, and the door locks are always working whether the car is powered on or off. So I'm going to use the door lock one, that's this one right here, for the battery fuse tap. And I'm going to use the USB charger one, that's this one here, it's a 15 amp, for the accessory. So when the car is powered on, that's where the camera will get its power. When the car is powered off, it'll get it from the door lock. Now, the first one I'm going to connect is the accessory one, the one that basically powers on with the car. So I'm going to pull the door lock fuse now. In order to pull the fuse, you're going to need a little set of pliers, very long nose, very thin nose pliers basically. And the first thing to do is to run both of these wires up underneath this plastic panel so that you can connect it and have the wires hidden. So I will run those into here now. just like that. And I won't pull out too much because I'm going to be tie wrapping all of that bundle of wires up underneath the dash afterwards. So the accessory one is the yellow wire, so let me start with that. I've paused the video at this point because at this section I'm about 5.5 hours into recording. It's about 30 Celsius or 85 Fahrenheit. I'm wearing jeans and working in an unconditioned, very hot car. Now that means that I'm a little confused and I've reversed my wires. What that means is the wire that says battery is the one that you're supposed to connect to the door lock connector or the door lock fuse, which is getting power all of the time. The one that says accessory is the wire that you're supposed to connect to the USB charger fuse, which only gets power when the car is powered on. So keep that in mind as you're watching the rest of this video. I was really tired and I literally crossed my wires. And I will pull, the door lock is the second from the bottom left. So first from the bottom left, but second row. That's the 20 amp fuse that's there. This one here. And now the car is powered off, so I can tell that this is the correct fuse. It doesn't work. And then I'll take it and I will connect it to the accessory fuse tap in the front location right here. And it is, again, a tight fit. Now the next thing you want to do is pick the direction. Now because of the way this is designed, it's got the wire going in one way, it's got the fuses coming out the other way, and it's kind of going to be in the way of the other fuse potentially. Well, I don't have a choice. I have to point it to the left like this. Okay, so with the fuse tap installed as it is, now my door lock should work. Well, they won't lock obviously because the key is too close to being in the car, but that proves that they work again. Now, USB charger is 1, 2, 3, fourth from the right and third one up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Whoa, that's going to be a tight fit. 15 amp. All right, and I will now stick that into this fuse tap, closest to the blades. And I'll rock that in gently. Same thing, I'll point it to the left. And I said that is 1, 2, third one up from the bottom, fourth over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's that there. Line up the blades and push that in. Now my car is powered off, so in theory, my camera should be powering on. Well, let's find out. Okay, well the problem is quite simple. When it's been 7 hours you've been recording video and doing this kind of thing, you forget the one and last thing that's super important, the ground wire. Let me show you where I'm going to connect that now. You need a 10mm socket wrench. Make sure it's in the unscrew direction. And then this will just slide between the bolt. And let me show that to you now. So as you can see, right above the dead pedal, I've got this nice metal bracket. And it's quite conveniently placed. So I will unbolt this. Just a little bit. Okay, just a little bit more maybe. And then stick that up into there. And then tighten it back up. And then I can run this wire right up to here and tie wrap it to the bundle once I'm done. So I just powered it on with the car powered on. I heard the startup sound. I don't know.
Wi-Fi enabled.
And there we go, Wi-Fi enabled. GPS is flashing, microphone is on, recording is on.
Recording. 3 channels started.
Well, it looks like that works. Well, the very last thing to do now is to just tie wrap those wires up underneath the dash to make them hidden and make things look like it's a factory installation. So let me do that now and we'll be done. I'll start by closing the fuse box cover. And I've got my trusty zip ties. So I'm going to start by tie wrapping this wire up behind this loom here to keep it out of the way. I don't want the ground getting caught on anything. So I'll start by doing that. Now that I've got it properly supported and hidden behind the module, I can take all of these wires and bundle them up in a nice figure 8, including this wire. And now I will use as a convenient wire loom right here. Now, if I tie all this up on that, then it won't be seen. It'll be out of the way. I won't hook it with my feet and risk damaging anything. So that's it. That is what that looks like. All nicely hidden. And the fuse taps, nicely placed, easily removed, easily made to be stock. No modifications are permanent. Now let me show you the rest of the installation from the outside and inside. The cabling is all nice and fine, but what does it look like with the trim all reinstalled and the camera being dead center from the outside? Well, let me see if I can show you with this camera what it looks like. Essentially, it's pretty much dead center and a slight offset, but the image that it gives is quite good, and you can check that out in the other video that I have that came out a couple weeks ago. Now, what about the cabling or the trim? How does that look on the driver's side? Well, that's a pretty short run, so let me show that to you now. As you can see, the wire goes from underneath up into the little hole that's there, and then up into the headliner. And you can't see anything. It is completely hidden up inside, up over here, and it comes down right here, and then all the way up underneath like you just saw. As for the other side, well, it's pretty much the same thing. It's all very nicely hidden. Let me show you this with this camera. So you've got the rear USB cable that comes out of the camera and goes up into the plastic trim that's there, up in the headliner, crosses over the A-pillar, and then in the roof line, and you really can't see. It literally is completely hidden, and then goes all the way back there. Also in the roof line, it's nicely hidden up here. Can't see anything at the port window. Wraps around the C-pillar. Is nicely hidden up in there. Comes out of the rubber grommet, so you can't see anything. Goes into the plastic and up onto the rear window. So it really is 100% hidden. It does look like a factory installation. You can't tell that it's there other than the fact that I've got the camera on the front and rear windows. So it ends up being a very nice installation, and I'm very satisfied with the results. It was a huge pain in the rear, and on the hot day that I did the installation, not so much fun wearing jeans and having no air conditioning in an area where the sun is crashing down on the car and making me melt, but that's all part and parcel of making an installation video. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you really liked it. And if you did, then I would really appreciate you clicking on that like button or that thumbs up button. It tells YouTube that you like the video and helps them share it with other people. It's kind of really important that you do these things if you like these videos, because otherwise less people see my videos and it's less motivation for me to make more content like this. But if you really enjoyed it and you want to see more content like this, then please click on that subscribe button. Subscribe button tells me that you like my videos, puts a big smile on my face. And if you check off that notification bell, well, you'll be notified when I post a video, because I have absolutely zero posting schedule because, like I've mentioned before, life. So I do have some social media links that might be of interest to you, and I'll put them up here somewhere on the screen for you to see, and I'll have links in the description below. Essentially, I've got my Facebook page, my Instagram account. I've also got my EV-olution website where you can buy t-shirts that have the EV-olution logo, and I've got them in 3 colors as well as multiple sizes if that's something that interests you. And if you feel like buying me a coffee on Ko-fi, well, I've got a link for that as well. With that being said, thank you very much for taking the time to watch my videos. I really do appreciate it. Getting the wire from the back of the car to the front of the car is quite an... Car? Nice. Of course, this is not coming off. Before I got started, this is the past for me, but the present for you, so maybe not so appropriate.